Are you addicted to buying, listening to, and collecting vinyl records like I am? Chances are, if you're watching this video, you might be. We're going to break down 5 signs that you might be a vinyl addict on this episode of Talking About Records. My name is G.I. Sanders from NTX Vinyl, a small chain of independent record shops in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. If you're not local but you're in the US, you can shop online at ntxvinyl.com. Would love it if you would subscribe to our channel on YouTube, follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Let's talk about vinyl records as an addiction. I've been collecting for over 20 years, and I can tell you firsthand that the more you get into collecting records, listening to the music, buying the music, the more addicting it really does become. Whether you're talking about filling out a collection or just grabbing albums you like, the more you get into it, the more you buy, the more you listen, the more you experience, the better gear you get. It all adds up, and it really does create an environment to where you want more and more and more. And that's kind of the definition of addiction, right? So I thought I'd break down 5 signs that you truly are a vinyl addict. So let's get to it. The first sign you might be a vinyl addict is if you wait to listen to a new album until you own it on vinyl, even though you could have been streaming it already. This is an interesting one, and I will tell you over time, I've started to do it more and more, and it kind of feels odd. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, the music's out there, it's readily available. I can stream it. I use Apple Music, maybe use Spotify or Tidal, or you can look it up on YouTube. The music's readily available, but yet I'm holding off on listening to it until I can actually break the seal on the record and drop the needle on it. The only way I can really rationalize this for myself personally is I feel like I'm cheating the artist by streaming it. Not all the times. There's plenty of times when I sample music, especially a new artist I've never heard of or a new album I'm not quite sure about. But there are certain albums by certain artists that I will wait until I get the record, even if it means, even if the record's been delayed, the vinyl doesn't come out till weeks or maybe even months until after it's available streaming. Sometimes I'll wait just because I want to actually experience it in full, uninterrupted, when I'm focused on it. And that's really the big deal for me. I know that if I just, put on my earbuds or I just stream it throughout the house, that I'll get exposed to it, but I'm not really listening to it. And so that's the biggest deal for me when I wait to hear an album until I get it on vinyl. That's because I want to actually have an engaged experience with the music versus a more passive experience, which is what happens when it's streaming. So I do think that's a sign of addiction in regards to this hobby, because there's a little bit of idiocracy there. I mean, obviously the music's there for the taking. You can listen to it, and if it's something you're going to enjoy, you should absolutely do that. But for me, again, I cherry pick certain albums, certain artists that I'll hold off until I actually get the physical album before I even listen to it at all. I may have heard the single, may have heard some teasers or something like that, but as far as listening to the album as a whole, that's something I've started to do more and more. And I'm curious if that's a habit that other vinyl addicts have adopted as well. Second sign that you might be a vinyl addict is if you have the Discogs app on your home screen of your phone. So if you're not a Discogs user, just to catch you up really quickly, Discogs, which is short for discography, is a great resource. It's a platform that not only where you can buy and sell vinyl, but you can catalog your collection and you can research albums. That's the biggest thing for me. So if you've got the Discogs app on your home screen, that means you probably use it a lot, like myself. It's one of those apps that I find myself gravitating towards all the time, even when I'm bored, because I'll just look through my own collection, my own want list. I'll go through and seek out different pressings just to see what's out there, see what new releases have come out. There's all kinds of useful tools and informations in the Discogs app. So if it's one that's on your home screen like it is mine, it's probably something you use a lot, And that's a pretty clear sign that you're an addict, right? When you've got your Discogs app right next to your banking app and right next to your messaging app and your email and all the things that you use to function on a daily basis. Well, for me, Discogs is one of those things where I absolutely do use it to function on a daily basis because I do think about records that much, and I'm constantly researching and looking them up and valuing them and learning about them. So that's a big deal for me, and one of the main reasons why that Discogs app is on the home screen. Number 3 sign that you might be a vinyl addict is that you get really excited, like I do, when you're driving through your neighborhood, you're driving somewhere locally, and you see a garage sale sign or an estate sale sign, and you're automatically engaged, and you're like, I gotta go check this out just in case. Because you never really know. I think the thrill of the hunt is probably the biggest thing that creates addiction within the vinyl collecting hobby, because you never know what you're gonna find. You can stop at a garage sale time and time again, completely strike out. Maybe there's no records at all. Maybe there's nothing that you would be interested in. But there's other times you can roll up into a garage sale and really find some gems. It still happens. It's getting less frequent as the collecting, as the hobby of vinyl collecting is becoming more mainstream in regards to just people understanding that it even exists, right? But it can still happen. In fact, I've driven up to garage sales and just asked people without even getting out of my car, hey, do you have any records by chance? People will say, no. Or they'll say, well, yeah, we've got records. Do you want to buy them? They don't even realize that it's something that, is sellable these days. And I've had people go into their house, pull out a box or two of records, be like, we weren't planning on selling these, but if you're interested in them, because again, they're just looking to clear out space most of the time with a garage sale. Estate sales can be just as hit or miss. A lot of times big companies run estate sales now, and so they'll have things priced more towards retail value, but they don't really quite know how to grade them or value them in general. So that can definitely be spotty. But again, I think the fact that you're driving through the neighborhood, you see a sign for one of these types of sales, automatically you get excited. That's a pretty big indicator that you're addicted to this, because again, you're just interested in that. It's all about the thrill of the hunt, and it's all about the opportunity to maybe discover something you don't already own that is really, really cool in regards to an album or an artist you're after. So definitely a sign of addiction is those garage sale signs. Number 4 sign you might be a vinyl addict is when you go to book travel, you do 2 things. You look for hotels, or first of all, cities, and then maybe hotels or neighborhoods to stay in based on if there are record stores in that area. And then the number 2 thing you would do is, if you're a vinyl addict, which I've done, is you bring an empty suitcase with you, because you're going to fill it with records to be able to fly home with. That's hilarious, and I love it, and I've done it myself, and I know other people have as well. I've actually done a video, and one of the tips on it was, to seek out record stores when you're traveling, because it can be really fun and really interesting. And regionally, or obviously based on if you're traveling internationally outside your country, there can be a really differentiated stock in regards to the inventory that a record store has. And so it's really fun to go explore. And plus, every record store is completely different in regards to how it's laid out and what they carry and how they treat their inventory. And so it can be really educational, really informative. But again, if you're doing that type of thing, if you're traveling and going to record stores and you're bringing an empty suitcase because you know you're going to bring a haul home, that's a pretty clear sign of addiction, in my opinion. Number 5 sign that you might be a vinyl addict is if you go out and you buy records, going out, buying them online, you're buying them in stores, independent, big box, it doesn't matter. But yet you've got records at home you haven't even opened yet, and you haven't even listened to. I do it all the time. You probably do too. This is one of those things where you just can never get enough. People ask me all the time, like, when does it end? Well, it never really ends, because there's that much great music out there on the vinyl format, especially. And so regardless of how many albums I have at home in my little new arrival sections of things that I haven't really opened yet or haven't listened to yet, I'm still after more. You can never have enough. I'm always on the hunt. I'm always looking as a personal collector for stuff to acquire that's interesting, that's new, that's rare, that's unique, or stuff I just haven't heard before, right? And so I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's a great part about the hobby is that it's never ending, right? But it does take it to a new level from an addiction standpoint, because there's no end. Like, there's no way to actually complete your collection, if you will. It's not necessarily like some other hobbies where you can kind of get to an endpoint because you've got everything, right? Like, I don't think I'll ever own all the music I want to own. Then you've got to add in things like, storage space obviously can be the biggest deterrent to actually owning everything. But the reality is, again, like, I'm never going to not buy a new record, or new or used, but it's something new to me. I'm never going to pass on it just because I've got a bunch of records at home that I haven't listened to, because the reality is I still want to listen to that one. It's just got to get in line with the others, right? And so, I think as far as addiction concerned, like, these are just 5 of the signs. There's a ton. These are just kind of a few of the ones I wanted to point out. But I tell people all the time, like, yeah, this is really addicting, but if you're going to be addicted to something, music is a great thing to be addicted to on any level, whether it's going to concerts or just streaming music. But certainly in regards to the physical vinyl format, I think it's a great way to spend your time. If you can focus on it, it's not looking at a screen, which is a big thing these days, which you're looking at one right now. I apologize, but that's the reality of the world we live in. But again, if you're going to get addicted to something, getting addicted to vinyl records is not a bad thing. Not to mention that everything you are buying is an investment, even if that's not the reason you are buying it. There is certainly an angle to rationalize your purchases by saying, hey, I may be addicted and I may be buying a lot, but at any point in time, I want to get out of this, or I have to get out of this. I can always get my money back, or I can always even make a profit. So that's the way I rationalize a lot of my addictions. So would love to hear your experience here. Would love to hear some other signs of vinyl addicts for yourself, or just observations of what you see of other collectors. Really appreciate your time. As always, this has been a quick hit version of talking about records. Stick around on the channel. Really appreciate the support as always, and we'll see you again next time.